Good evening, friends. I'm Sylvia. I'm glad to have all of you join our Talent Sprints Banker's Choice program this evening. Well, so far, we've looked at 4 sessions on quantitative aptitude and 1 session on reasoning. So it's time to lean towards our English section today. Today will be our 6th session. Well, exclusively today, we will be looking at the topic, finding errors. Let me tell you the reason why I chose this topic. Now, out of the many numerous other topics that you will encounter in the English section, such as reading comprehension, jumbled sentences, sentence improvement, sentence completion, close passage, the reason I specifically chose finding errors is simply because it covers some basic concepts. And the advantage for you is you'll be able to solve other question types also. Isn't that amazing? And while SBI PO exam is a competitive exam, right? Which means every single mark counts. Therefore, every single question matters. Imagine if you knew the strategy to approach those questions and solve those questions, especially the questions where you can solve in less than 20 seconds. But that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to help you look at some strategies and approaches that you can take. While we will be covering some concepts on finding errors, there are lots more available on our website. While for those of you who've already joined our program and who are continuing to join the program, you will take advantage of the same. But for those of you who've missed out our 40% offer up till last week, just reminding you that today is the last day for you to go ahead and take advantage of the 35% offer. Well, you don't want to miss that too. So all you need to do is click the button below which says SBI PO Premium Courses, right? And you can join our 45,000 plus students on the online program and get started right away. So let's get back to this session today and let's go find some errors. Now, one of the very first basic concepts that we're going to look at is word class, otherwise called as parts of speech. Now, when I say parts of speech, we're already familiar with the 8 parts of speech, right? We're going to list them down, but let's look at a quick refresher just to make sure all of us are on the same page, okay? We look at some example sentences to understand the same. Let's look at our first sentence. Okay, so the sentence reads, Arun is impulsive, he is intellectually challenged. All right, so let's understand our first part of speech. What is his name? Arun, right? The name of a person, animal, place, thing, idea, concept is our noun. You're aware of that. Okay, so is there a word substituting the noun here in this sentence? Like a noun equivalent, right? What word is substituting Arun here? He. Correct? So that is our pronoun. Okay. Are there other words in the sentence describing Arun a little more? Some additional information about Arun? Any guesses? Yes, we have impulsive. Okay. Any other words talking about Arun? Challenged. Right? So these two words, what part of speech is this? Describing words, describing the noun. Adjectives. Right? Impulsive and challenged. Okay, so our describing words are impulsive and challenged. What is impulsive? Impulsive means to do without thinking, right? To act fast without thinking. Okay, any other parts of speech in the sentence? What is intellectually? The suffix is ly. It's an easy form to figure out. Ly suffix, you add it to the adjective form, which is our adverb, right? So this is our adverb. Okay, in this sentence itself, we've covered about 4 parts of speech. Noun, adjective, pronoun, and adverb. Now let's quickly go ahead and look at adverb a little in detail, right? Adverb, what is the function of an adverb? An adverb not just modifies a verb, it also modifies an adjective or another adverb. Let's quickly look at some example sentences for that. Right? He drove slowly. So what's our action word in this? The verb, drove. Okay, so how did he drive? Slowly. Answering the question, how? The adverb. Okay, all right. Let's look at one more sentence. He drove a very fast car. Okay, in this sentence again my action word is drove. All right. So how fast did he drive the car? Very. Again, this is my adverb modifying the adjective fast. Okay, let's look at one more sentence. He moved quite slowly. Okay, so in this sentence, again, my action word is moved. Okay, verb. How did he move? Slowly. Adverb. How slowly did he move? Quite slowly. What is this? Another adverb, right? So in our previous sentence, we said the adverb not only modifies a verb, it modifies an adjective as well as another adverb. So we have an understanding of adverb. Let's look at our remaining parts of speech quickly. So let's look at the sentence. Gosh, he was so annoying, and I am going to get him for that. Okay, in this sentence, let me give you a tip to identify the next part of speech. Now, this part of speech does not necessarily connect to the sentence grammatically. What I'm trying to say is if I take out that word, the meaning of the sentence doesn't change. And it is usually followed by an exclamation mark. It comes either in the beginning of the sentence or at the end of the sentence. This is an easy one to find out, right? Gosh. So this is my interjection. Okay. So we have noun, adjective, pronoun, verb, adverb. That's 5. This is our next one, 6th one, interjection. What other part of speech are we missing? Conjunction, right? What is a conjunction? Conjunction is a linking or connecting word. It connects either two clauses or two parts of speech. What is a clause? Just a quick reminder, a clause is a phrase which has a subject and a verb and gives a complete thought, right? So for example, if I say he was so annoying, that's one clause. I have a subject, I have a verb, it's one complete thought. I am going to get him for that is the next clause, right? That's a complete thought. So this and is my conjunction connecting these two clauses, okay? Any other, what's the last part of speech? Preposition. Preposition gives a lot of meaning to the sentence, right? If I take off the preposition, the meaning is awkward. It doesn't make sense. So can you identify the prepositions in this sentence? There are more than one preposition, in fact. Okay, to, for, yeah, all right. So we looked at to and for. So these are your prepositions. Now prepositions have a lot of different meanings. I can have a preposition giving me the meaning of purpose or in order to, reason, right? Direction, location is what mostly the prepositions do. So now we have an understanding of all our 8 parts of speech. Now it's also important for us to understand the different word classes in one word. What do I mean by this? So if I say inform, okay, inform, the noun form of inform is information. The adjective form of inform is informative, right? So there are different forms to one word. If I take the word communicate, communication is the noun form. Communicative is the adjective form. So let's look at 2 or 3 words, understand the different forms. So we're going to apply that in example sentences. So let's look at the word promote. Promote is the verb form. Okay. So the present tense, all you need to do is add S. Promotes. And the past tense you'll add a ed, and the continuous tense you'll add a ing. Okay. So promotes, promoted, promoting. All right. Okay, great. So we have that. What is the noun form of this word? Any guesses? The noun form of promote. We know that our noun forms usually end with tion, sion, ness, ment, ty, right? Can you guess what can be the noun form of this word? Promotion, okay, promotiveness, okay, promotability, okay. Any other noun forms? Promoter. Okay, so this is also a noun form. These are, so did you notice one thing? The noun form, so some words might have more than 2 or 3 noun forms, right? So it's important for you to keep that in mind also. Now, let's go ahead and what do you think is the adjective form of this? adjective form of this, right? Promotive, okay, promotable, all right, promoting. Now you need to identify that some of the adjective forms may take up the past tense or the continuous verb form. What do I mean by that? Past tense or the continuous verb form. Yeah, think about it. If I say that was a fascinating story, story is the noun form, promoting becomes the adjective. So if I say he was a determined candidate, yeah, Narendra Modi is a determined candidate, right? So candidate is my noun, determined is my adjective. So if you look at that, some adjective forms take up the continuous verb form and the past tense verb form. So the adjective form of promote can also be promoting, all right? And then the adverb form is easy. You add an ly to the adjective form, promotingly. Okay, so this is just to give you an idea of one word having different forms. Now let's go ahead and look at one sentence where we're going to find the error pertaining to word class and forms. We had extensively discussions. So what I'm basically going to do is, a sentence is always divided into parts, right? 4 or 5 parts. And then you have the fifth part saying no error. So I'm going to write down the parts of a sentence and you're going to tell me which part has the error. And we're going to apply the concept of what we just saw now, which is word class, different forms for one word. Okay, so we had extensive discussions is part 1. Part 2. With the participants and obtained their feedback. And part 4. Regarding our new services. Okay, so I've written the parts, and then of course the last part we'll have is no error. So you need to tell me which of these parts has the error, applying the concept that we just saw. I'm going to give you about maybe a couple of seconds here for you to think, and then you can tell me which part has the error. Just think about what we looked at, reiterating the tips, okay? Now, a noun form answering the question 1 normally ends with TION, SION, MENT, NESS, TY, all right. Adverbs answers the question how. It modifies not only a verb, also an adjective and another adverb. Adjectives are describing words. Sometimes it takes up the past tense or the continuous verb form. Yeah, these are the tips that you need to keep in mind. Now let's look at this. So we had extensively discussions with the participants and obtained their feedback regarding our new services. This is a sentence broken into 4 parts. Which part do you think has the error and why maybe? If you can explain it, think about it. Let's look at part 1. Which is the noun in that part 1? Easy one to identify. SION, that's the noun, right? Now the word before the noun, what is it actually doing? Is it giving me additional information about what sort of discussions it is? Ideally, yes, it's telling me what the discussion was, right? Or how the discussion was. Now, if I need a describing word, I need the adjective form. But what form is there? Adverb form is there. So how do I change that adverb to an adjective form? Modifying or defining discussions? Very simple. I cut the ly. We had extensive discussions. This is the part that has the error. Are you following? So you need to look at each part, look at what are the word classes available, and if the adjacent words are modifying, supplementing, or complementing the correct word. Let's look at one more example to understand word class and forms. More than half the food product, okay. Part 2, targeted at babies and toddlers have, part 3, a high sugar content and are, fourth part, excessive sweet. Okay, the sentence is broken into 4 parts and we have no error. So if we feel none of these parts have any error, we're going to click no error. So let's look at each part. Again, take a couple of seconds. Which part do you think has the error? More than half the food products, targeted at more than half the food products, okay, targeted at babies and toddlers have a high sugar content and are excessive sweet. Okay. So where do you think is the error? Keep in mind the word class. Nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs. Okay, let's go one by one. More than half the food products targeted at babies and toddlers have, okay, a high sugar content and are excessive sweet. Now what is this? What is this word? What form is that word, sweet? What is it talking about? Is it describing something? What is it describing? More than half the food products targeted babies and toddlers have high sugar. It's describing the food products, right? So a describing word is what form? Adjective form. And what is this word? It's answering the question, how? How sweet is it? It says excessive, but the form is incorrect. Can you tell me what form should come here? We just saw one of the tips, right? The word class that answers the question how is which form? Adverb. And for adverb, what do I need? The suffix ly, right? Excessively sweet. Answering the question how. So the error is in part 4. You just change the adjective excessive form to adverb excessively. Alright. So this is one such concept in finding errors, which is word class and forms. Let's move to our second concept. Okay. Now the second concept that we're going to look at is relative pronouns. Remember pronouns, right? We have our personal pronouns, I, you, we, he, she, they, right? And then we have our possessive pronouns, my, your, our, their. We have our reflexive pronouns, myself, yourself, ourselves, themselves, right? Remember? Now we're going to look at what is this relative pronoun but. Now relative pronouns introduces relative clause. Again, remember clause, right? Basically, it relates to the word that it modifies. Now, let's look at two such things to understand what are these relative pronouns. The first one, is a defining relative clause, otherwise called as a restrictive clause. Yeah, this is not Greek or Latin, right? I'm going to explain this in simpler ways for you to understand it. Defining relative clause or restrictive clause. Now, as the name suggests, this clause defines, restricts, or limits another part of the sentence. Let's look at that, or let's understand that with an example. So, if I say, the house that I grew up in was blue. Okay, in this sentence, the house that I grew up in was blue. Now, one thing that you need to remember is if I remove the restrictive clause in a sentence, it changes the meaning of the sentence. Or rather, I need more meaning to understand the sentence. Now, what is the restrictive clause in this? That I grew up in. Okay, so if I say the house was blue, which house are we talking about? What house? So I need the restrictive clause to bring in more clarity and meaning to the sentence. So that's why I said restrictive clause limits information, restricts information. Another example I can say, yeah, dogs that are naughty will be put outside. Right? In this sentence again, dogs will be put outside. What dogs? What is the context? I don't understand. That are naughty is my restrictive clause giving me more meaning. Okay. The second one is a non-defining relative clause or a non-restrictive clause. So in this clause, basically this clause is used to add information to a sentence. Now, just to give you a difference, let's say defining and non-defining, right? Which means restrictive or non-restrictive. So I said for defining, ideally for things, you use that. For people, person, you use who. For anything relating to units of time, you use when. For place, you use where. For a non-defining clause, on the other hand, where I said it adds information to a sentence, for things, you use which. And the rest of it remains the same. For persons, you use who. For time, you use when. And for place, you use where. Now, to give you an example for a non-defining clause, if I say, our school, which is 300 years old, is getting a new auditorium. In that sentence, our school, which is 300 years old, is getting a new auditorium. Let's quickly write that down here. Is getting a new auditorium. Now, in this sentence, which is the non-restrictive clause, something that adds more information, which is 300 years old. So here, what I'm saying is, if I remove this clause, the meaning is still complete. The school is getting a new auditorium. Great. Nothing happens if I remove this. Yeah, it's just additional information. Okay. You need to remember this. Now, using this concept of relative pronouns, let's look at how to apply that in finding errors. Yeah, let's get our first example. The government is working, okay, part one, part two, out a new system to compensate those companies to sell products below the market price. And then we have no error. So remember, we've looked at our relative pronouns. We have which, that, who, when, where. Okay. So can you identify the relative pronoun in the sentence first? Let's look at the sentence. The government is working out a new system to compensate those companies to sell products below the market price. Are there any relative pronouns here? But sometimes you will have to figure out there might be some incorrect prepositions also in the sentence which you have to replace with a relative pronoun. So this is one such case. Can you identify the preposition in the sentence? Remember prepositions: on, at, in, for, to, by, right? Okay. So can you identify what are the prepositions here? I have to. Again, I have to. Okay. Any other prepositions? That's okay. So we'll just look at these two prepositions. Now, let's see, to understand the meaning of this context. The government is working out a new system to compensate those companies to sell products below the market price. If I have a company, okay, and I'm selling a product which is way below MRP, obviously I'm not making any profit, right? So the government is coming up with a scheme saying, boss, I will go ahead and give you and compensate for the profit that you're not getting. So this is the meaning of the sentence. Now let's go back and see, is there any preposition which is giving me an incorrect meaning? The government is working out a new system to compensate the companies. Which companies? Which companies? The companies that sell products below the market price. So what do you need to change? Where do you think the error is? Part 3, right? This two, why would the government compensate to sell? It's compensating those companies that are selling below the market price. So this needs to be replaced with which relative pronoun? Are we talking about all the companies, or are we limiting, saying only those companies that sell below the market price? We are limiting the information. When you limit the information, we're talking about things here. Yeah, let's identify that first. We're talking about things here. For things, I have two relative pronouns, that and which. So in this case, I will use that. Simply because it is not talking about all the companies, it is limiting, saying only those companies that are selling below the market price. So the error is in part 3. You replace the preposition to with the relative pronoun that. So in this case, we had to go ahead and look at incorrect preposition and change that to the right relative pronoun. But what if there is an existing relative pronoun which is incorrect and you need to change that? Let's look at that example. The Union Health Minister said that, okay, this is part 1. Part 2, there was an acute shortage of. Part 3, health personnel in rural areas. Part 4, who needed to be addressed urgently. Okay? No error. So this one I'm not going to give you much time. Can you quickly identify the relative pronoun? Which part has the relative pronoun? 1, 2, 3 or 4? 4. Right? Who? Who is for? Persons. Correct? We've established that fact when we looked at the concept. Now, what is happening here? Do we need to address the situation or we need to address the people? Let's make that identification first. The Union Health Minister said that there was an acute shortage of health personnel in rural areas who needed to be addressed urgently. Okay, so I understand in this concept or in this context, the situation has to be addressed, right? Situation means it's a thing. Who is for persons? So what do I replace who with? Very simple. Which one? Is it adding information, limiting information? Which? The meaning of the sentence is still intact even if I don't have this, right? The Union Health Minister said that there was an acute shortage of health personnel. Is the meaning intact? Yes, right? This is additional information coming here that needs to be addressed urgently. So I replace who with which. Are you following? So you need to understand, most of us get confused when it comes to things. Sometimes which and that will go, but it's good to know that that is used only when you limit or restrict information, and which is used to add information to a sentence. That way you get the right answer. But right now we know that the error is in part 4 in this particular question. Okay, so we're going to move on to other concepts. So far we've just looked at two concepts, right? Word forms, word class rather, and then we've looked at relative pronouns. Now let's quickly move on to our other concepts. Now this is a very, very simple concept. It's called noun numbers. Noun numbers. Remember, singular, plural, right? Book, books, chair, chairs, glass, glasses. So quickly let's jot down, how do you change a singular form to a plural form? What and all do you do? The first one, you add, what do you do? S or ES, right? I just gave you some examples. Watch, watches becomes plural, right? Box, boxes. Books, 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 pen, pens. Okay. What else do you do? What about words ending with F or FE? Words ending in F or FE. What do you do to change them into plural? You add VES. Right? Life. The plural of life is lives. Leaf. FE, F. Change it to plural, becomes leaves. Right? What about words ending in Y? You just strike off the Y, you add IES. Right? Let's look at that. Give me some examples. City, cities. Party, parties. Okay, this is one. How else would you change a singular to a noun form? Any other concepts that you can think of? We've looked at adding SES. We've looked at words ending in FE, add VES. Okay. What about vowels that come in between? What do you do for that? Yeah, I'll give you an example. Foot, feet. Right? Tooth, teeth. You just change the vowels in between. Okay, that's one. What about compound words? How do you change them into the plural form? Compound words. What are compound words? Example. Passerby. Commander-in-chief. What do? You just add S to the main word. That becomes the plural. Passerby, you add an S, passers-by, plural. Commander-in-chief, you add an S, commanders-in-chief, plural. Right? So these are various forms. Now there are always exceptions in the English language, right? For example, if I take the word roof, it ends with F. We just saw that words ending in F, you'll have to change it to VES. But here, you'll just say roofs. Right? So these are some exceptions. Now we have an idea of noun numbers. The most important thing that you need to remember in noun numbers is singular, plural forms. Now, can we have errors even with this concept? Yes, we can. Yeah? Let's go ahead and look at one example. Okay, the first part, their failure Their failure to inspect, part 2, our factories is a clear indications that our license will not be renewed. Okay? No error. All right. So we're going to apply noun numbers concept here. Their failure to inspect our factories is a clear indications that our license will not be renewed. No error. When you read it, it actually seems like there is no error. But do you think, let's see how smart you are, right? Quickly identify the error. There is an error, of course. So which part has the error? What does indications mean? It's like a signal, right? Okay. Their failure to inspect our factories is the clear indications that our license will not be renewed. Now, I'll give you a tip. The verb is a singular verb form. That's a tip for you. Now tell me, where is the error? Okay. Is your tip, which means an is also there, which talks about singular component. But there is something here is giving me a plural component, which is indications. The error is part 3. Clear indications is incorrect because there's only one indication, only one signal given in this example. So this is where the error is. It should be clear indication. Okay. Can we look at one more example for noun numbers? Yes? Okay. The manager of that city branch two cannot handle it with the help of only 2 personnel, as business has increased substantially. Okay, and no error. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Which part has the error? Same concept, noun numbers, singular, plural. Your clue is, it says only 2, but here it says personal. What's personal? Personal is like a staff, like the workers, a larger number. But here I'm specifying only 2. So ideally what should come there? 2 persons. Not personnel, but persons. The error is in part 3. Yeah, this is noun numbers for you. So we have word class forms, relative pronouns, noun numbers, and we're going to quickly move on to our next concept. Now, this concept, just before I go to this concept, what I want to tell you is, this is the most easiest concept, but the most overlooked concept. What I'm saying is, it will stare right at you, but you will still not be able to find the error. So I want to know how many of you can actually go ahead and find this error. Like I said, it's the most easiest one, but it's the most overlooked one. I'm not going to give out the name of the error, right? I'm going to write down the example. I want you to identify what is this error, and you tell me what this error is. Okay? On the outer ring road, we witnessed a collision between a truck and an auto and then no error. Like I said, it's your time to answer this. Most easiest, most overlooked. Let's see you identify the error. On the outer ring road, we witnessed a collision between a truck and an auto. Where is the error? I'm going to give you exactly 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anybody answered? I don't know. I don't think so. The error is in part 2. Where's the error? Collision. What should it be? Collision. Right? A collision is where there is somebody collides with each other. We're talking about a truck and an auto. So this is what? This is merely a spelling error, right? Spelling errors are the most overlooked errors. Nobody even thinks about looking at spellings, right? That can also be an error in finding errors concept. Okay, so watch out for spelling errors. I'm not going to give you one more sentence because now that we've identified spelling errors, do you want to look at one more just to make sure you know as many words as possible in terms of spellings? Okay, we know the error, but we look at one more. The scheme, part 1. The scheme was launched to allow a customer to know the states of his loan application. Okay? No error. All right. So the scheme was launched to allow, sorry about that, this will be 4 and this will be 5. Okay? The scheme was launched to allow a customer to know the states of his loan application. No error. This is an easy one. We just saw the concept. We know the concept. It's a spelling error. Which part has the error? Quickly. Which part has the error? Part 4. Yes. What do you change this into? Status, right? It says states. Change it to status. Spelling error. Okay. So keep in mind spelling errors. Look for them as well. Let's move to our next concept. We're gonna get a little more complicated. When I say complicated, it's tense. Now, when it comes to tense, everybody feels it's very complicated and it's very confusing, right? But again, if you have a very basic, clear understanding of tense, then it becomes easier. What you need to understand is there are different forms for your present tense, past tense, and your future tense, right? Let's do a quick refresher. We have a simple form, simplest, right? Then we have our continuous form, ing form. Then we have our perfect tense. Action started sometime in the past, continues up to the time of reporting. And then we have our perfect continuous tense, right? Let's look at one example just to understand that quickly. So if I take the verb go, simple tense, I go. Continuous tense, I am going. Perfect tense, I have gone. Perfect continuous tense, I have been going. Right? Everybody clear with this, right? This is very basic. We need to know this for as many verbs as possible. Any verb you take, you need to know this. What's the simple form? What's the continuous form? What's the perfect tense form? What's the perfect continuous tense form? So we have an idea. So let's go ahead and look at one particular example sentence for tense as an error. angered over the delay in giving compensation part 2. Factory workers shouted part 3. Slogans against the president when he reaches the office. And then I have no error. Angered over the delay in giving compensation, factory workers shouted slogans against the president when he reaches the office. Okay. Now we're looking at tense, right? The first question that you can ask when it comes to finding errors is, irrespective of whichever concept, what is the general tense in the sentence? What do I mean by that? There will be verbs. The action words are the ones that tell you what the tense is, right? What is the tense? It denotes the time of an action or the degree of completedness of an action. And what gives you that? The action word, the verb, right? Okay, so if you look at this sentence, what is the general tense? Angered, past tense. Shouted, past tense, right? Most of my predominant verbs in the sentence is giving me past tense verb form. Is there a verb in the sentence which is contradicting the general tense and also hampering meaning? Everything is happening in the past tense. Is there any other word? Yes, right? Fourth part, what is it? Reaches. Reaches in the simple present tense. I can't have that because the overall action is happening in the past. Simple. So the error is in part 4. I changed reaches to ed. Reached the office. After he reached the office is when all of this happened. But the entire context is taking place in the past tense verb form. So one simple question that you will ask is, what is the general tense in the sentence? Look for verbs in the sentence, right? Predominant verbs. Which tense is it showing? Present tense, past tense, or continuous form? Let's look at one more example for tense. Part 1. Unless these differences will be resolved soon, part 3. There will be an adverse effect on foreign investment. And then you have no error. Okay, unless these differences will be resolved soon, there will be an adverse effect on foreign investments. Let's apply tenses here. Now, if something, predominantly my verbs are showing future tense, right? Will be, okay. But let's look at the overall meaning of the context. If you're saying something will happen, which means you're looking at something present to change. If this happens, then there will be something. If this does not happen, then there will be another consequence. So which means my former part has to be in the present tense. Unless these differences, something present tense, then there will be an adverse. So if this doesn't happen, there's going to be an adverse effect. So how will I change this future verb to a, is it a singular verb or a plural verb? That's another thing you have to figure out. Unless these differences, which means more than one difference. The subject is plural. So you need a plural verb. How will you change this? unless these differences, think of verbs, unless these differences are. Unless these differences are resolved soon, there will be an adverse effect on foreign investment. So you notice, apart from answering or asking the question, what is the general tense in the sentence, you need to also look at the overall meaning of the context. Is it making logical sense? Unless something happens, you will not have or you will not see a difference in the future, which means you'll have to make sure it also connects or compares logically. That will help you identify the right answer. So far, how many concepts have we looked at? We looked at quite a number of concepts, right? At least what? 4, 5, yeah? We're going to move on to other concepts, but let's just go ahead and quickly look at what all we looked at. We started with word class or forms, then we looked at relative pronouns, then we looked at the most obvious one, spelling errors. Did we look at prepositions or conjunctions? Not really. We're going to look at that right now. And we looked at noun numbers. This one is tenses. So we're going to move on to prepositions and conjunctions. Okay. Conjunctions, we know, linking words, connecting words. Prepositions give meaning to the sentence. Otherwise, it's awkward. It shows me direction, location, all of that. Okay. So let's quickly go ahead and look at one concept. Okay. Let's look at prepositions. Let's do one in preposition, one in conjunction. The board's decision has provided employees with the opportunity to acquire up to 100 shares by the company. No error. Okay. The board's decision has provided employees with the opportunity to acquire up to 100 shares by the company. I'm going to ask you only two questions. Whose shares are these? Whose shares? Company shares. Who's going to acquire it? The employees, right? So I said this is a preposition error. Can you identify the prepositions quickly? With, to, up to, by. Okay. Where do you think the error is? I already said that the shares belong to the company. So which part do you think is not making logical sense? The board's decision has provided employees with the opportunity to acquire up to 100 shares. This is the answer, right? What should I change by to? Belonging. A preposition that brings in the meaning of possession is of the company. You also need to remember that each preposition can have more than 2-3 meanings, right? So here the error is in part 4. You replace by with of. Okay. Can we look at one more example? This is preposition. Let's look at conjunction quickly. Arranging such a large amount of funds now will be a problem. Why? Banks are usually not open so early in the morning. Okay? No error. Identify the two clauses. Arranging such a large amount of funds now will be a problem. One clause. Banks are usually not open so early in the morning. Second clause. Now in this sentence, I have a question instead of a conjunction giving me the meaning of reason. What is that? Why do I need this why here? It's a question, right? Why do I need a question in the middle of a sentence? So what can I replace that? I need a connecting word, a linking word that brings in the meaning of reason. Cause, reason, right? Cause and effect is there. So arranging such a large amount of funds now will be a problem because banks are usually not open so early in the morning. So basically, the error is in part 2, right? So this is a conjunctional error. Now, there are few more concepts, quite a lot in fact. Let's see, do we have time to go ahead and complete these concepts? Okay. Um, let's go ahead and look at one more concept. Do we have time? Okay. So unfortunately, there are quite a lot more concepts for us to cover, but we are running out of time. So I would, gladly go ahead and continue to cover all those other concepts in finding errors. But let's quickly summarize what we've looked at so far. Out of the 4 sections in your SPI/PO exam, we've looked at, of course, the English section. That's 1. 2 is out of the 23 or 24 topics that are available on our website, we've just looked at one exclusive topic, which is finding errors. And out of 18 odd concepts, we've only covered about 6 or 7 concepts, right? So if you want to go ahead and take advantage of the remaining concepts, right, all you need to do is go ahead and just take advantage of our offers and join in our online program. Now, if you have not gone ahead and taken advantage, especially we had our 40% offer last week, up to last week, right? Just reminding you that today is the last day for you to take advantage of our 35% offer available for our online program. All you need to do is click on the coupon, the button at the bottom, which says SPI/PO Premium Courses. That's what you need to click on. That's the coupon. SPI/PO Premium Courses. Okay, right? And you can get a 35% off on your MRP. Okay, the code is SPI/PO35, and the last date is today, 30th April. Right? Today is the last date for you to go ahead and take advantage of that offer, and we would more than glad, or we would be willing, or we would be glad for you to join our 45,000 plus students already enrolled in our online program today. And we look forward for you to go ahead and take advantage of the 350 videos also available on our website, and all the other exclusive videos showing strategies and tips, and also the assessments, right? We have a lot of practice tests and assessments that you can use and utilize. So don't miss out on this opportunity. It's a great opportunity for you, especially preparing for the SPI/PO exam. And we look forward to having you back with us on our next session, right? The next session is on exam strategies. It's this coming Sunday, 4th May at 10:30 a.m. Right? So we'll see you then. Until we see you then, keep practicing, and I will see you in the next session. Thank you.